went. So Dina, I know you were asking. The dogs are in Koro. Now, sorry, Kirst, you're breaking up far too much, and I don't even know where the radio is to double beep you. I'm afraid not, Kirst. I can't hear anything that Kirst is saying at the moment, so I know she's trying to feed me a question, but I don't really know what she's actually saying. It's just every second word. So, like I was saying, Dina, your wild dogs are in Koro, and they are apparently moving southwards from Koro. So that's where the dogs are, and where they've run to. Hopefully they will make a return appearance in the next couple of days. I'm sure they will. It just shows you how far they can actually move. They really do go a long way. Right, I thought I saw something in a tree up this way that looked a bit light in color, so I want to just explore that option and have a little look. It's obviously very difficult now because we've got the roof, so we don't really want things in trees because otherwise we have to park very far away from them. Let's just see, it was somewhere in one of these marulas that I saw a light colored, could have just been leaves of course, but I saw something light in here and it seems like it's worth investigating. No, where did I see it, Seb? Somewhere here. Can't find it now. Anyway, we'll keep looking and scanning around as we go. Maybe I just missed it and I'll have to turn around and come back in a different angle. Will be able to enlighten me. This certainly doesn't look like a leopard in any of these trees, that's for sure. And hopefully we'll have a situation where maybe I'll spot something somewhere else. But while I kind of have a look around and try and see what I can find, let's go across to Longhaired Brent for the last time. I don't know when he's having his haircuts actually. Maybe his haircut will be today, but either way I'm sure he'll have something fun to tell you.
Well, hello! We've managed to get past Serena. We did find that other male lion, but he was in very long grass and all you could see was the top of his tail, so we're not sure which of the musketeers it was. So we've decided to continue on towards Happy Valley. Hopefully it's going to produce much joy this morning. And Adrian's quite excited because it's the first time he's been to this part of the Mara, so I think we're going to have a really fun day. Oh, there is a big pig. Now, normally on the count of 3, as soon as you stop the car, get the camera sort of in the area, the pig runs. This time he's having a look at us, and off we go. Little legs working very hard. Watch out for the lions, guys. Oh, high-speed pig. Now he just got his ears and gone. Okay, let's keep going. It always astounds me how many warthogs there actually are in the Mara. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, possibly even thousands. Especially in this long grass, you barely see them. And sometimes when you're driving down the roads through the long grass, you get such a fright because this thing just explodes out of the grass next to you and takes off. Now apparently there's been much debate about my hair. I'm actually quite scared now to what's going to happen to me tomorrow. Don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, it should be fun, whatever happens. So now we're in an area of a lion pride we don't see too often. Yes, of course, Kirsten McLennan Smith, the pale, pasty, soulless ginger, thinks I should have a mullet. Oh, we got a nice big Ellie in the road. Yay! So I said there's a lion pride. We don't see them too often here. Due to the fact there's a massive area between us and the river here that is a high use zone, so there's no off-roading. So quite often, especially with the grass this length, we don't see them often at all. There are some nice males around here that I have seen before. But we have got an elephant. Looks like a young bull, all on his own. Doesn't look like he wants to hang around though. He's already marching off. Hello, big boy. Not the biggest tusk, but quite big in body size. We'd say probably around 30 years old. Sometimes with this misty conditions, it does create such a lovely backdrop. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, he's found something good to eat along the way. It's just nice to sit and listen for a second. Ooh, that's a new call. It's not. I heard it the other day, that doo-tweet. It sounds similar to a monotonous lark, but a monotonous lark doesn't occur here. And I've listened to all the other lark calls, and it's not one of them. So that leaves a cisticular. And a cisticular is called I don't know. So I'm going to have to do some research on that one. Oh, it's just so wonderful and peaceful this morning. You can hear a Cape turtle dove. I heard a red-eyed dove. You can hear some guinea fowl. As the elephant does his slow amble away. Well, while he ambles, I think we're going to keep ambling ourselves. Well, there's one thing that is for sure. I am definitely not getting a mullet. That is out of the question. So, while I amble, it seems like Master Henry is bumbling.
I am bumbling. No, I'm ambling. No, I'm bumbling. Yes, we're bumbling. We went through Ingwe Alley to see if we could get lucky with perhaps some Tundi tracks of some sort. We have not had any success. We're now going to go down another road just over here towards Nchelapan on the central parts of Djuma and see what we can pick up there. We're a bit discombobulated with the return home to try and put on our roofs. There's some grey go-away birds calling. There. It's on the can you see it there, David? It's at about head height, probably directly behind this pole. That's exactly right. Let's go a bit forward. It's moved now. Oh, no, there it is. It's still there. It sounded a little bit like an alarm call. So let's wait here while we look at the kingfisher that's over there. Can you see the kingfisher? There we are. Well done. Woodland kingfisher. Hello. Look at him. He looks distinctly sort of regal, looking at us out of the corner of his left eye. I'm just trying to have a listen to perhaps any alarm calls. There are some rattling cisticulars. There's quite a lot of bird activity here. It might just be a feeding party, though. Otherwise, things have now gone quiet as the woodland kingfisher eyes us. Hello, good morning. How are you? Little bit wet? Yes, indeed. Have you seen any leopards? Do you think he's pointing with his beak? I don't. Are you pointing with your beak? No, not. Really not a very friendly kingfisher at all. I think we'll leave him where he is. Continue. very uncommunicative. Oh, Paula, you say, what is the noisiest bird in the bush? Well, I suppose the one that calls the most when it's here is that woodland kingfisher. They make an unspeakable noise all the time. Hardy-dars have probably the loudest and most piercing call. Then Egyptian geese tend to make a lot of noise at each other. They shout at each other continually. What else would we have that makes a big noise out here? Now, some of the cuckoos, the red-chested cuckoo, can call endlessly. Yeah, I think those are probably the noisiest birds that we find out here. None of them have a particularly unpleasant sound. Well, no, I'd say that. The hardy-dar and the Egyptian goose don't have attractive calls. The Egyptian geese sound like sort of really angry, breaking sanding machines at each other. And the hardy-dar, well, that sounds like a child playing a recorder. No child should ever be given a recorder to play. Start them on the piano, not the recorder. I have sat through many concerts in my life where 5- and 6-year-olds blowing their little lungs to pieces into recorders not designed to take anything like that volume of air. So they sound like sort of demented, I don't know what they sound like demented penny whistles. As of course is a completely irrelevant piece of information I gave you. But now we have a debut. We have a world premiere. Stivovo is in the tent and he's looking at a skull.
And we are indeed in a tent, and I feel quite at home in the tent because for the last probably 4 or 5 years I've been living in a tent just like this, so this feels quite natural and comfortable, except normally I'm not surrounded by as many bones as I am right now. But folks, we've got some skulls. We're going to talk a little bit about teeth and my favorite animal. I wonder if you can all remember what my favorite animal is. Let me grab the right one. Here we have a skull of a beautiful small mammal, and what's very noticeable is these very sharp canine teeth, which are used for fighting and defense. And these teeth over here, if I open that slightly, you can see how sharp they are. And what is characteristic of this skull and classifies it as a carnivore is these teeth, not the enlarged canines. We'll jump to something else shortly, but this section over here at the top of the bottom is called the carnassial shear, which is the side of the teeth. It's for cutting sinew, for cutting through bone, through flesh, and this is where carnivores get their name, is from those teeth. Can anybody guess what animal this is? It is my favorite animal. If you have been watching me, notice I've spoken about them before. There's quite a small head if you think about it. It's only about the size of my hand, so it's quite small, but pound for pound the most powerful. Indeed, Andy, the honey badger, very, very well put, sir. And here you have the teeth, and these front ones will do a little bit of ripping of flesh. The sharp canines are for fighting and for defense, and the carnassial shear, especially when a honey badger grabs a snake, it will use this for severing the snake and cutting it so it can swallow it. Okay, so moving from the honey badger onto an animal that is slightly more modified, just so that we don't get confused. Here we have, once again, extremely large canines. Extremely large canines. This is evolutionary adaptation for fighting and defense, but you'll notice that they don't have the same cutting teeth on the side here as in the case of the carnivore. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is my uncle. This is the baboon. Okay, and you can see those teeth. Look at those canines there. Unbelievable biting force. Let me just get them in the right position. Look at that biting force. You can actually see where these canines are coming up and down and how that is cutting in as they move. Okay, and the baboon is an omnivore just like us, but you can clearly see on the side, in comparison to the small honey badger, doesn't have those sharp cutting teeth, and hence is not a carnivore. So if you find a skull on the floor, don't look at the big sharp teeth and think carnivore. You've got to look for those side teeth. And like us, these are molars, premolars, used for grinding of fruit and plant matter. Okay, very, very nice example of an omnivore. And we'll jump into another animal real quick that has also got what we call an enlarged canine. And this, ladies and gentlemen, yes, if you guessed it, is the warthog. But remember that this is not how you define a carnivore. This is for defense, as we know, and for fighting. I'm not even sure if this belongs to this guy, but I just popped it in before. It's quite hollow to a point inside, but it is very, very heavy. It's nice and solid. Pops in there, and you can imagine if he does this with his head, how that could inadvertently hurt you. But looking at the teeth underneath, look at that. There's very little purchase for the real sort of maceration that we as omnivores need. This is the typical sort of teeth pattern of a grazer, nice and flat, and the bottom teeth would be quite similar, and it's just for crushing the grass, breaking it up into smaller particles. But it's a very poor system that the warthog has, and we know that the warthog is a hindgut fermenter, very similar to the zebra. But while we stay here and examine these skulls and get in tune with some of our ancestors, we're going to go to Tristan, who I believe is not in a tent but driving.
Well, I'm in a kind of tent, given that we have canvas all over and a roof, and it feels very tent-like as we drive, or maybe it's more a bit like a double-decker bus. That's how it kind of feels when you drive with this roof on top. There you go, you can see all the canvas and everything else that's going on, and so it's a delightful thing to have in the rain, except that it obscures visibility and making off-road very difficult. Now you might be wondering what I'm doing and where I am. So I'm inside the Mulawati because I'm trying to find Thandi. The last tracks of that female that we had were heading kind of southwards down towards Philemon's, and then they cut off from there, and from there I don't know where she went. So I'm just in the off chance driving up the Mulawati, checking the old den sites. You never know, maybe she's lying somewhere here and we get lucky. So it's just about checking and having a little look and seeing what's happening. Now I was listening to James and his chat about birds and the noisiest ones. I think a rattling testicular has got to be thrown in that mix as well. They don't stop all year round, whereas, you know, the monotonous larks and the woodland kingfishers and those things all are pretty much around the summer period, so at least the rattling doesn't stop. And the other one that is a fairly noisy creature out here, well, two of them actually, is the Coqui franklin and the crested franklins. They also like to call non-stop too. Right. Be nice to actually have a franklin alarm calling or a rattling testicular. That would certainly make us life easier. Maybe we'd be able to find some semblance of a heartbeat, because this morning we've been struggling on Djuma to find anything really that resembles a mammal. We've struggled. We had the hippos at Chitwa, but Djuma's side of life has been very quiet. There's been the odd impala that we've had here and there, but other than that, it's all been a little on the quiet side. Now when we drop into the Mulawati here, I want to just double check and see if I can see any tracks, because if she has been here, then we will pick up the tracks quite quickly, given that no vehicles are really moving in this area and there are no tracks whatsoever, which means that I don't think she's come back to this area with that cub for quite some time. What we'll do is we'll go and check the other den, the one that was up on the hill, even though I don't think she's using it anymore. We'll just go and check it anyway in case. Right, so I'm going to just try and negotiate through this little area, get onto the other side, towards the other den, and while I do that, let's go back across to Ralph, who hopefully will not find a big muddy puddle, but is also looking for a spotted cat.
Yes, thank you everybody, and we've just pulled off the road here. We have learned through the Bush Telegraph about some of those 5 musketeers, so we are making our way to them, but we thought we'd just stop and have a look at some of these largest birds. And wonderful little group we have of ostriches. This is not particularly the right kind of weather for them. They don't really look very comfortable. For them, the hotter and the drier, the better. And today we're sitting with a rather humid, cool day. So the ostriches aren't particularly happy. You can see they are looking a little bit miserable, all fluffing their feathers out. Obviously they don't like if it's getting wet. And so they are all trying to just keep them out a little bit. But at the same time, it is nice to see them like this, because it's not often that you get to see ostrich in humid, cool weather. And nice with the background there. Remember, looking at, we've seen quite a lot of males that have been getting quite pink legs and the pink bill. And obviously these, the more drab ones, are the females. Obviously all just trying to do a little bit of feather maintenance with the wet weather. And contrary to the cartoons and common belief in some places of people that don't know about ostriches, they don't put their heads in the sand. And I don't know where this myth came from. They do put their heads down to the ground, but they don't bury them in the sand. They do swallow rocks, however, and sometimes rather large ones, but that all helps with the digestion and grinding up their food in the gut. Like all the rest of the birds, they only have one cloaca, which is used for excreting both dung and urine. So there's only one orifice to expel that, and so you can often see them getting rid of a large amount of dung and urine. But they've also got one of the strangest of all the bird feet. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, you're wondering if we have emu here. No, we don't, Chitty Chatty Meg. I think emu are from South America, but we don't have any emu in Africa. This is the largest bird in the world, however, and I do want to just show you what an ostrich track looks like, if Craig can come through here. And this is the actual size of an ostrich track. So if I put my hand next to it, you can see that it is rather large. It's pretty much the size of my hand, and that claw on the end, very descriptive and a very dangerous part of an ostrich, especially when they are defending their nest, and they can really kick out with this very big toe and claw, and they have been known to disembowel people that have gotten too close to their nest. But the old Kalahari Bushman, they used to pretend to be ostriches to try and get some of their eggs. But Nancy, you're wondering if ostrich also eat grass. Nancy, they pretty much eat anything. So they're a little bit like chickens. As they walk around, they will peck at anything. They do eat grass. They eat insects. They eat stones. They will eat anything that is shiny. So the ones born in or bred in captivity, because they aren't born obviously, if they are bred in captivity and there is any rubbish around or litter, and they will also feed on that. And if you stand next to them and you have any shiny jewelry on, they can also try and swallow that. So you do need to be careful when you go to visit any ostrich farms. But they have one of the largest eyes in comparison to the head. Now, John, you're wondering if they shed their feathers. Well, yes, they do drop their feathers, and they do molt, and there's a very big industry in, well, I think it's dropped a little bit, but there was a very big industry for ostrich feathers, and so the ostrich farmers, it's one of the most efficient forms of farming because they can use each and every single part of the bird, and they do make some of the best leather in the world, and so they use the feathers, they use the meat, which is highly prized because of its low fat and low calories. And it's become very popular in Europe, and you can also use the eggs. So there is not one small part of an ostrich that is wasted with the ostrich farming. So as far as farming goes, I do support ostrich farming because of that efficiency of them not wasting any little bit of the animal's parts. And it is quite humane in the way that they farm with them. So I don't have a problem with farming ostriches. It's also that, look, I mean, cruelty to animals is cruelty to animals, but obviously the more intelligent an animal is, the easier it is to be cruel to it, if I can say that, because they do have the ability to think more. But with ostriches, the intelligence is not very high. Their brain is probably the size of my pinky nail, so tiny. It's smaller than their eye, and so that's something to think about. Imagine your brain was smaller than your eye. But looking at ostriches, I don't know if Craig can get in nice and close there. We are rather far away, but they've got very elegant looking eyes with eyelashes, and one of the largest eyes per size of head of any animal in the world. And they do some very elaborate dances. Wonderful, look at that, the females. And the males will do a courtship dance where they do run around a little bit like that, but then they will also sway from side to side. I don't know if James or Byron or somebody has done that dance before. I've seen them doing the dance of the male Nyala, but maybe one day I'll do the dance of the ostrich for you, maybe on a bushwalk when I'm back in Djuma. But it's lovely to see the ostriches. Obviously, they don't have wings and use for flight anymore, and their bones aren't hollow like normal birds, and so these wings now and the feathers used primarily to protect those very bare drumstick legs you can see there, normally from the sun. But it can be a little bit from the cold as well, because in the desert it's either extremely hot during the day and normally extremely cold at night as well, because there's nothing to keep the heat in, and very barren, bare ground. So they can use it to keep their legs warm too, or in the shade. And then when it comes to chicks, they can make a very lovely parapente or a shade for their chicks, and then they've got somewhere to hide. So we sit here with these lovely ostriches. We are going to now start to make our way towards those musketeers, and hopefully we can find them. But from one bird to another, let's send you on over to James, who I think has got a waterbird.
I have got a water bird. It's doing the moonwalk. Well, it was. The moon swim. It was sort of reversing smoothly. It is a little grebe. And in typical ornithological fashion, they've ruined the name. It used to be called a dabchick, which was really quite a nice name. The grebe is kind of innocuous, I feel. Like the Melba finch, which is now a Cameroptera. Ridiculous. Now, interestingly, these grebes do not like to live with Egyptian geese. Well, nobody self-respecting likes to live with an Egyptian goose. They're very noisy, but apparently the greater the concentration of Egyptian geese in an area, the fewer little grebes you will find, which I thought was quite interesting. And normally they're supposed to roost in large communal rafts at night. and I suspect that this chap arrived here for some foraging for the day and will depart to find some friends as darkness falls later on. Eating insects, finch and tadpoles and frogs. As with most of these things, it will basically eat anything it can catch. Really very mobile in the water. And it was also doing this funny little hop thing where it sort of jumped out of the water, flapped a few times and then popped back in. It was most impressive. That other thing there is a stick sticking out of the water. Those are foam nest frogs, thank you David, well spotted. Well, they're foam nests, they're not the frogs themselves. Have to have some eyes to see frogs at that distance. And of course the grebe would most certainly eat the tadpoles coming out of those nests, but the nests will protect them from the grebe at their very youngest stages. The eggs hatch inside the little foam nest, of course. Very good. Scuba Steve is still here. Yes, X-Ranger, you're absolutely correct. As we look at Scuba Steve, you say the little grebe looks like the fake of that Loch Ness Monster, that very famous Loch Ness Monster fake picture. Yeah, I agree with you. It's exactly what it looks like, especially in these conditions. Of course, the sun has never shone on Loch Ness. What with it being in Scotland? Maybe once in a decade or so. And Scuba Steve is giving his typically understated and fairly poor performance. He really is a hopeless television candidate, Scuba Steve. I'm trying to imagine sort of a human equivalent. I guess it'd be a little bit like taking him to view a... you know what it would be like? It would be like doing accountancy live, taking him into an accounting firm. That is basically as entertaining as Scuba Steve is. All right, that's it from Buffelshoek Dam. Well, I mean, not bad going really, because we actually had two things to show you here, and one of them wasn't a goose. Right, now we're going to go back across to Stivovo in the tent, and I feel slightly remiss that I have not given him sufficient indication as to what to do in there, but it seems like he's muddling through very successfully, and he's got another head to show you.
Another head indeed, thanks James. Well done on getting a little grebe. Always quite special to see those little birds. And here we have another carnivore indeed. You can see the very sharp carnassial teeth on this side. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is indeed the skull of a small-ish leopard. And what amazes me really is if you look at these canines here, how they overlap. They overlap, and those are just, the objective of them is suffocation of prey. Leopard is a solitary hunter, needs to kill a prey silently, and this basically goes through the windpipe. If I just open this up for you here, it's a little bit flimsy. Open that up, look at those teeth. Their whole objective is to slam down, and they cross over, and they just suffocate the animal. With that mouth closed, the nostrils above here, the leopard's able to breathe while those are clamped down very, very tightly. If you just go out a little bit view, what I also find quite interesting is if you look at the shape of this head, I mean, you've all seen hundreds of leopards by now. The shape is very, very small in comparison to what we see. So this is where the eye socket is, and you can actually see the jawbone over there. And this is all just muscle up here attached to this cranium ridge at the back here. Not as big as in hyenas, but that muscle, you've all seen leopards, their heads would be up here, the ears would be here, and all of this is muscle, purely designed to help this jawbone slam shut and suffocate their prey silently before they start feeding. Then with the nice teeth in front here, The leopard often then plucks the fur out before feeding, and then once it gets through the sinewy sort of bits, the carnassial shear comes into play, and this is where the leopard does the ripping and tearing of the quite hard stuff. Quite awesome to see and to spend time with skulls like this to get a proper realization of what those teeth look like. I know every time a leopard yawns, everybody wants that shot. Look at that. You see the teeth, you see the ferociousness of that animal. If that bit you, it would be very sore. And can you imagine trying to let go? It won't let go. How will that let go once bitten? Has to release itself. Very, very, very interesting. So, from our lovely leopard to another small and interesting cousin. Very, very small indeed. Once again, you can see the canines, but don't let that confuse you. Here we have the small skull of a vervet monkey, and the teeth inside there are a little bit more grinding, a little bit more jagged, like our molars at the back. So they are an omnivore, and those teeth, when a male, and a lot of people have been bitten by monkeys in the past, especially small children. Why do you think small children get bitten by a monkey? Now, what do you do as a child when you see a monkey? You smile, don't you? And you do that, and you basically raise your lips and you bare your teeth, and that's what it is showing. It is a sign of aggression in a monkey. So don't smile at a monkey, rather just laugh at him with your teeth covered, and he'll be a little bit more comfortable. But from the vervets and the leopards and the non-moving skulls that we have here, they're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere right now. It has cleared up a bit outside, but we're going to go up to Brent to the Mara with one of those migrating species.
Well, look at this. We've got some zebras having a little argy-bargy. Looks like youngsters. Oof, look how their ears go flat. Bite, bite, bite him. Bite his leg. Zebras are really nasty to each other. Now, this started off what looked like a little bit of a game in the beginning, and now you can see, okay, there we go. Someone has won. No, coming back for more. Watch out, you'll get a kick. Oh. And they've got incredibly sharp teeth. Now, the interesting thing is, we've come down close to that area that we nicknamed Happy Valley last year, and all of a sudden there is a plethora of general game. Lots of zebra, a couple of hundred that we've seen so far, and topi, tommies, impala. So we're definitely in the right zone for the predators now. Lots to eat around here. But now I'm going to keep moving before I get eaten. I'm being attacked by these evil little midges at the moment, and actually just sort of spray a form of acid on you, and it's quite painful. Tiny, minute little things buzzing around me. And as soon as you stop, when it's in the morning, when it's in a wet area, they seem to just attack me. They seem to leave the cameraman alone. They just seem to attack me all the time. Oh dear, did I get one in my eye? Ow! Ow! Nasty thing. Clifford is wondering, is it possible for zebras and horses to mate? I'm sure it's possible. I don't think they would produce a viable offspring though. Zebras are quite a lot more closely related to donkeys than they are to horses. So donkey, the wild ass, which is actually a real thing, is the closest relative to the zebra family. So you can see by their build, they're much shorter than horses are. But yes, more closely related to donkey. I'm pretty sure they could breed, but whether they would produce a non-sterile offspring, I don't know. I'm certain someone's probably tried, because people are very strange things, fascinated with the macabre and the weird. While we keep moving, trying to find some predators, let's go across to the not so fluffy, since he had his hair cut, Tristan Dix.
Indeed, I feel like I'm not fluffy. I feel like I'm like a sheep that's been shaved in the winter, or summer, should I say. So it feels much better, to be honest. Brent, you should try it. Maybe Brent will go as short as I did, and then it'll be quite a shock for everyone. Highly doubt it, though, but maybe he will. In fact, I think Jamie and Megan, if you are watching or if you're listening in any way, just pretend like you're cutting it and then just shave it, and then let's see how it goes, and we'll have a very short-haired Brent as well driving around. But as we have found very little. We have checked all Tundi's den sites that we know about or have that she's used. We've checked around sort of Vulture's Nest where James had the last visual of Tundi and the cub a few days ago, and no real signs there either. So I'm at a bit of a loss as to where she could be right now. I feel like she's somewhere in the Mulawati drainage with that cub. It's just a matter of kind of finding her on a kill and then trying to follow her from there to wherever she might be keeping this cub. But we are getting to that time now where that cub is not going to really be housed in a den too much. It's going to be kind of shifted and moved wherever she may have a kill, and then she kind of will go back and forth from the kill to wherever the cub is very close by. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing, and then within about a month's time that little cub will be going to kills to go and feed. So it's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be a good time because it means that we're going to see both her and the cub moving around, and it's not going to be as cryptic as to where they are as it's been over the last few weeks, because it's been tough with Tundi. She's notoriously difficult when she's got cubs. If you think of little Tumba and his offspring that he had, well, not his offspring, his sibling, should I say, that he had, those two weren't seen for the first, I think it was about 3 months, or maybe even 4 months, until they were first seen by anybody. So, you know, no one had really seen them at all, and they then started to emerge at around that time. And then there was quite frequent sightings once they got over that sort of 4 or 5 month age. Then Tundi was a lot more relaxed about bringing them out and about and showing them off. So it's an exciting time. Hopefully we'll have lots of really good sightings of her and the little one. Alright, well, we're going to start heading home. While we do that, let's go back to Ralph, who I think is still looking for the cheetahs. I'm not sure if he's had successes. He'll eventually get it out, but hopefully he has, and hopefully it will be an epic morning with the musketeers.
And good luck to everybody in Djuma. I hope you guys survive the rain. But we now are still on our little search for the cheetah, so I'm not going to be stopping anytime soon because I hear that they're not too far. So we have our eyes peeled and we're looking around everywhere, but it seems they were spotted in this area off the main road. So that's what we are doing now. We're just scanning as we go along, trying to see this lovely white.
Welcome. Seems like Ralph hasn't found the musketeers or the cheetah boys just yet, but he did find the gremlin or two. And as you can see, there's lots going on. So I just want to stop. And the reason I came up on the high ground above Happy Valley is I've had such good luck in the past just stopping up here on the high ground and having a look with my binos to what's happening down below before I descend. And often, oh, Zebra, what are you snorting at? You're snorting at a Thompson's gazelle that's jogging towards you. That's a bit pathetic now, really. How often you can spot this big pride of lions Janine would like to know, why are animals called game? Janine? I'm not sure. Probably, actually, it probably derives from hunting. And hunting game, there's something, it's a sport. I'm guessing, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the most logical explanation to where game comes from. Now, I can't see any lions. How horrible is that? Sometimes they're right up at the top of this valley. But the other thing is that the two border boys, when they do come into Kenya, they do come down this valley hunting as well. Here's a lovely male Tommy. Now, see, I look for lions from the distance, but then when I dive deep into the valley, I'm looking for leopard, of course. Alright, let's carry on. No luck with the cats yet. I didn't see many animals right down in the bottom of the valley, which, oh, there we go. Okay, Adrian, you see there's a dark termite mound just to the left of that. There's a bird walking in the open grass, and so there we go. You got him. Oh, a little bit out. There we go. Center now. A little bit to the right. There we go. A male white-bellied Koran. I have very pretty Korans. Isn't that pretty? You can see he's got his cheeks all puffed out, displaying for ladies. I don't see any ladies around, poor chap. And a little Tommy behind. Oh, there is a lady. Pop, she just popped into frame. Oh, he does have a girlfriend after all. Oh, no, is it two males? It's two males, I think. I'm trying to have a closer look there now. No, it is a lady. Look how he's puffing up. Look at his cheek puff up. Isn't that awesome? He's really trying to get her attention. The Koran mating dance. The Korans have such wonderful mating dances. We've got the suicide bird and then the black-bellied bustard and their little popping. So they do often have very, very nice displays. Well, the bustard family in general. Kori bustards are also incredible display. And each has their own little niche. Well, she's not interested. She's just eating breakfast. Oh, some Tommies playing around in the background, chasing each other. Get lucky, although it doesn't look like his lady friend is interested at all. Now, I've seen cheetah, as I say, quite a few times in this area. I've seen Musiara here. I've seen a young male. I've seen the two border boys, all in this area. And nice short grass so we can get a good long distance view. So I'm just hoping to see something pop its head up on a termite mound shortly. Well, it sounds like Rolf has managed to find himself away from the gremlins, and he's still in search of the 5 boys.
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, well, folks, sorry that we got cut away from you that quickly a little bit earlier. We are in an area where sometimes the signal comes and goes, so it can be expected, but we are still in hot pursuit of those 5 cheetah boys. We haven't spotted anything just yet, but we're going to keep searching in this direction because that is the intel that we received and the intelligence from the underground. Lister, you're wondering why cheetah cubs look like honey badgers. Well, it's really down to the fact that they are very vulnerable at that very young age, and they do fall foul to hyena, leopard, lions. So I think evolutionary wise they are just trying their best to try and deter these other predators from killing their little cubs. And if they can do that by just giving the impression that they look like or they are honey badgers, the other predators might think twice about having a go at them. but generally it's questionable whether it actually works. It may be just in those odd occasions where they may have put the predator in two minds, and so it would have helped him a little bit. But it's all in the view of trying to give the cubs the best chance possible at survival. So there's your answer there with the little cubbies. But it's incredible how like the honey badgers they actually look with that coloration. It's absolutely amazing to think how they mimic like that. I'm trying to think of other cubs that look like something else. I can't quite think of one just now, but you have a lot of insects that obviously do mimicking, and mostly mimicking something which is very noxious or poisonous, and like the African monarch butterfly, and the male diadem butterfly is also tries to look like the monarch, and it is I think it's the milkweed that the monarch caterpillar feeds on, which is rather noxious, which also gives it its very distasteful flavor for predators. And so all the animals have evolved to understand that an African monarch butterfly is a very distasteful thing to eat. And so the diadem butterfly, which is not noxious at all, but exhibits the very similar coloration pattern, gives itself a fighting chance by mimicking the African monarch. And so the other animals then do steer clear or they don't eat it because they think it's a monarch. So, and we also have a lot of birds who use mimicking, and one such character being that of the fork-tailed drongo, very often mimicking the pearl-spotted owlet, almost to get rid of the other birds or make them think that they're going to get attacked by this little owlet, which does feed on little birds. So quite clever of him. And the star robin, the common star robin, also does quite good mimicking, as well as the violet-backed starling. So the mimickers, it's normally to do with either protecting themselves against predators or enabling them to get the upper hand around a food resource, like the drongos might do. But very interesting how people and animals mimic, and then we can even talk about biomimicking, and that we look at from a human perspective is how a lot of things that we use that we have mimicked from nature. One of the things being aeroplane wings. Obviously the Wright brothers who started flight and so on, very rudimentary in the beginning, and it seemed that it was all down to trying to get lift. But if you look at the aeroplane wings, for instance, of today, it's very interesting to see that they're actually forcing the air to go over the top of the wing faster, which then creates lift. And that has come about from watching birds' wings, obviously on a very micro scale, and looking at it from a scientific perspective, and seeing that actually if you can speed the air up over the top of the wing, you're going to get natural lift. And so it was always trying to get lift from below, but not thinking about what they were doing above. And so obviously with the technology available now, they've been able to look deeper into it, and that's now become the reality. And also to have flexible wings, not rigid. And so when you're looking out the aeroplane window and you see your wings almost look like they're flapping sometimes, it's made to do that. It's very similar to that of bridges that are made to be dynamic and being able to move, because if they were rigid, they'd obviously break much easier. So very important to think about that. And if you, on a very, when it's quite cold in wherever you're taking off or flying, you can often see that air flow over the top of the wings of aeroplanes. And that's pretty much the idea coming from birds and biomimicking, that we copy them. And there's a lot of other mimics that we use from animals. Right, folks, I'm trying to mimic this cheetah and trying to think of where they would be hiding, but we are going to hopefully catch up with them quite soon. And while we're doing that, we'll send you over to Brent and see how he's getting along. Sorry about that, folks. We're actually sticking with me. I think Brent has maybe got himself into an area where there's very low signal. So the search is still on. Are trying to... Now, Dr. Rob, you're wondering, are cheetah hunting patterns affected by the rain? They might be slightly, yes, because obviously they're not as comfortable in the rain. They don't hate water as much as you might think. But cheetah, they hunt with sight, and they do best when it is pretty clear, pretty calm, maybe with a little bit of a breeze, and that's normally the best for them. So it can affect them a little bit, but it can also, sometimes a hindrance can also be turned to their advantage, because they might not, the prey animals might not see them coming. But it does also make visibility for the cheetahs a little bit more difficult as well. So there's all those little aspects to think about. But I would say a day like today is one of the best days for cheetah to be hunting. So that's why we're hoping to catch up with some of them. And if we don't find the musketeers, well, we'll keep searching for some other cheetah. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and identify whether the cheetah are hungry or not. And by how we do that is basically looking at how their body looks and if they are really fat or not. And if they haven't eaten and there's potential for hunting, then we're going to stay with those cheetah for the rest of the day, and hopefully, at least by this afternoon, have witnessed them going about their hunting. So that's the idea. But we will try our best. Ooh. Now, Caitlin, you're wondering. Sorry about that, folks. Seems a little bit of signal issues, but never fear, we're back online now, and I'm just about to find a little spot where we can get off the road here, because they have fixed the roads, so it's a little bit difficult to actually get off of it, but I think here is a lovely spot for us. So let's go off here, and we're going to head down into one of these lagers and see if we can get some clues as to where these cheetah are hiding. I don't know if any of you know about Land Rovers, but when you turn with the Land Rover, very often you need to do about a 10-point turn. So it's just indicating there why it takes me so long to get around the corner. Now, Caitlin, you were wondering before we the total area of the Mara Triangle and the Greater Mara Reserve is about 10,000 square kilometers. So in miles, you could probably say, I think it's about 7.5, around 7,000 square miles. So it's quite a large area. And so you can't drive around it in one day. And I would say in a week, you still probably wouldn't have explored all of it. Maybe 2 weeks you could have had a very good go at most of the roads. So it is rather large, and there's lots of place to explore, and lots of place to get lost, and lots of area to get stuck, which I know all about. But it's wonderful to drive around the Mara, and especially with our particular permits. We do have special permits that we are allowed to drive off-road as well. We obviously don't try to drive off-road too much, because we don't want to just damage the wildlife. But if we do spot something special, we can obviously then go off where everybody else needs to stay on the road. So that's quite nice for us. Now, it's also good with the weather being as it is, because it's not necessary that the predators will be hiding up in the shade, and so we might see them a little bit more out in the open, which does make it a little bit easier for us to be able to spot them. But we still need to use all our training and our experience in trying to spot the particular colors and shapes. Alright, so we're going to head along this little lugger and see if we can catch up with some of these spotted cats. But in the meantime, let's head you on over to Brent on the other side of the river, who's doing much of the same.
Well, I am looking for a spotted cat here. This is the area of the Madja Chafu female leopard. But we've just had some lion tracks on the road, so I'm just having a quick look ahead. Now, if we look down there is a massive amount of zebra in this area at the moment. If you have a look carefully, those little spots, keep zooming in, you'll see, look at that, big herd of zebra down there. The lion's got to be somewhere close. I'm just doing a quick pad across the hill, and all I see is more and more and more and more zebra. But the lion tracks were heading down the road we're on, so they could be lying up in the bushes close by here. Let's have a look if we get lucky. As I said, I found that female leopard in these thickets quite a few times. I'm looking for a nice white belly of a lion sleeping somewhere around here. Yeah, it can get quite confusing because there's quite a lot of white granite stones that look like lions from a distance. Okay. No more tracks. So they might have cut across here into these thickets there, or gone down into the valley. lots of zebra around. Unfortunately, the comms are a little bit bad here, so I couldn't hear that question. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoot quickly up to the opposite bank there, where my comms will be good again, and I can answer all the questions. Hopefully we find some lions from that side as well, or leopard, or cheetah. So this valley we're driving through at the moment is actually where we had that big hyena war between the two clans quite a few months ago now. Hold on, bumpity bump. Let's speed up a little bit just to get through to where we've got some radio comms. Hello, zebras. Excuse us coming through. We're going to go fasty for a second. There we go. I think the hill that was blocking Kirsten being able to talk to me should be out of the way by now. But just in case, we're going to go up the hill a bit. Climb, let's climb. Blaine, USA. Is this an enclosed park, or can the animals come and go? They are able to come and go at will. There are no fences around the Mara Serengeti, and so it is a completely open system. The Masai Mara itself is about 150,000 hectares, so just over 300,000 acres. That's the National Reserve. Then you have the conservancies around it, which will push it over around 500,000 acres. The Serengeti, on the other hand, is massive. It's 1.6 million hectares, so well over 2 million acres, close to 3 million acres. So they've got a very big unfenced area to wander around in. Oh, what have we over there? A termite mound-like, a lion-like termite mound. So this is actually one of my favorite spots in this part of the reserve, this lone Balanites tree up here on the crest, and it gives you a really nice view over the Mara River. So we're going to stop there, we're going to pick up the binos again and see if we can find one of these elusive cats. You see there's a lot of zebra there. Maybe the cats are in the next valley. So it's such a wonderful spot. I've actually slept a few nights in this very spot. Okay, well, while I pan my binoculars across the wide open vista that is the Mara, looking down upon the Mara River, let's see how Rolf's search for the cheetah is going.
Yes, thanks, Brent. Well, I definitely feel like we're getting closer to these cheetah, but they're still eluding us for now. However, we have found a lovely herd of eland, which we don't often see, or we don't see them that much, if I can say. And they're not one of the animals that I would say are more of the common in the Mara, so it's always lovely to stop and watch them. Some of the biggest of all the antelope, and I love the shape of their horns. They are very elegant antelope as far as I'm concerned, and they are beautiful. There is some of the oxpeckers just on their back as well, and look at that massive dewlap that is on that male. Very pretty. very straight horns, and when they walk, especially when you're on foot and you're very quiet, you can hear their toes clicking. And that's a characteristic of eland that you don't generally hear with other animals. And it seems like their toes are almost just too close together. And as they walk, then you hear that click, 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 click. And often when you're on walks, bush walks, you hear that noise, you can know that you're near to eland without having seen them. So, folks, I'm hoping that we're going to catch up with these cheetah quite soon. And don't forget that if I do, and there's something exciting that's going to be going on, we will be doing action broadcasts. And so you can always log on and see if anything exciting happens between the drives. And if it doesn't happen between the drives, I can... well, I don't know. I'm going to hedge a bet that by this afternoon we will have some cheetah ready to show you for the afternoon drive. So that's one reason for you also to hop on again for the afternoon drive and join us, because I'm pretty sure we're going to catch up with them. And if our luck is with us, because, you know, normally when something bad happens at the beginning of a trip, like we had yesterday, getting stuck in the mud, very often it can turn around the other way, and I think our luck is going to change today. We did have a little bit of rain this morning as well, so I thought the luck was continuing in the same vein from us getting stuck and then the rain starting, but it's going to turn now, and I'm thinking that we're going to be having awesome luck. So please join us. And I just want to thank everybody up in Djuma, and to James and to Steve and to everybody in the FC, and also on our side in the Mara. Thanks to Brent, and most of all, thank you to all the viewers and all your questions and all your comments. Remember that this is all for you, and don't forget to join us this afternoon once again with Safari Live on another game drive. So thank you, have a nice day, and see you later.